Let's go to Adam Creighton, the excellent correspondent from The Australian, who's over there in the States. Adam, great to chat to you as always. What do you make of the last 2 hours?
Well, obviously, it's just extraordinary. And we just heard the president's remarks there. So it's, I suppose, worth commenting on those. I mean, firstly, I think he took too long to make a statement. I mean, it was almost 90 minutes. I think the Australian Prime Minister responded sooner than the president. So I don't think that's a particularly good look. And I think generally the reason why Joe Biden then just, didn't seem very enthusiastic at all about his comments is this is just terrible for the Democrat Party narrative that all the violence and all the extremism is supposedly on the right, which is obviously nonsense. And now you have a case where someone's tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Now, admittedly, we don't know any of the facts about this person yet, except that they're dead. But it's quite possible that they're going to be an extremist on the left. So, look, I don't think it's helpful for either side to be, screaming at the other side about extremism. But I just think we need to get everything in perspective. And I think the other point it's important to make, too, is the US is a country of 330 million people. That's a lot of people. And so you are always going to get crazies on both sides. And so I don't think you want to take from this that, all Americans are crazy. I just think that's the wrong interpretation. I mean, of course, it's a polarized country, but we don't want to, say Americans are, are crazy and that they try to shoot their political leaders. I just don't think that is fair at all. Of course, some people will try to say that, but you've got to remember it's an enormous country, and even a tiny, tiny percentage of an enormous number is still a large number.
Adam, I wanted to go back to the statement that the president just delivered. And by the way, thank you as an American for defending our honor that we are not all crazy. I do appreciate that. But in that statement, there was a couple of things that struck me. Number one, he said, again, this kind of violence, which seems to me to allow for some of the other violence we've seen from the left, the Summer of Love riots of 2020, that sort of thing. But number two, just even his affect, the way he presented, the way that he seemed to stumble through parts of that and say, well, yes. And if it's too late, we'll put out a statement, as if, it seems to confirm to me this idea that, bedtime is coming up here for the president, and he'll leave it to his team to put out any further statements if we have an identity of the shooter or if there's any sort of further stuff. This seems to be just as damning for the Biden campaign and such an underlining of Trump's narrative as what we've just seen in the last couple of hours.
Yeah, look, I think that's true. I think he clearly hated making those remarks. That was very evident from his body language, and I think there's no surprise. I mean, he may be losing his mind, but he's still a very experienced politician, and he would certainly realise that they've probably lost the election because of this. I mean, there's going to be a huge groundswell of sympathy, I would think, for Donald Trump. I mean, from both sides of politics, I would say, from independent voters, that's going to be, a perfectly natural response, especially given the extraordinary defiance that Donald Trump showed on the spot. I mean, I must say, I don't think I would have responded like that. I mean, he basically got up, he shook his fist, he was bloodied, he asked for his shoes. I mean, it's quite extraordinary stuff. The imagery is amazing for the Republicans and for Donald Trump. So, look, I think if there's a point where Democrats lost the election, it may not be the debate that we've talked so much about. I think it may be this.
Caroline.
Adam, Caroline Marcus here, how do you see this playing out for the Trump campaign? I mean, we've been talking here off the show about how the campaign will already be trying to turn those images, those almost iconic images of Trump raising his fist in the air, into promotional material for him.
Oh, look, I think they certainly will. And I think, that they're going to feature very heavily at the convention next week in Milwaukee, which I assume is still going to go ahead as planned. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Donald Trump himself makes some sort of statement later this evening, local time. I mean, that's his nature. I mean, he may or may not, but that wouldn't surprise me. Look, I think, this is just a disaster for Democrats. I mean, it really is. I mean, just like I said earlier, it just goes against their narrative of political violence on the right. I mean, here's a real tangible example of the opposite of that. It shows Trump is so kind of vigorous still, despite his being 78 years old. The contrast with Biden now is even more extreme than it was before.
Adam Creighton from The Australian and Sky there in America. Thanks so much for coming on and talking to us on Outsiders, Adam. It's always great to see you.